Welcome to another episode of Mental Health Mondays. It is the week of March 27th, 2023. Congratulations for making it another week. We're here again. Thank God. What a week, man. Car troubles are brain troubles. You know what I mean? I know nothing about cars. Makes it extra frustrating. All right, let me just jump right into the story here. Have a lease 2020 Chevy Blazer. Nice car. And it's been being weird. It's been acting weird. I thought it was like the computer system in the car or something. It's just giving me weird messages. My middle screen, like the dash, will just turn off while driving sometimes. Whatever. I knew I had to take it in to the dealer and get it checked out. Being the ever procrastinator that I am, haven't done it yet. So I went to the gym the other morning. It's early in the morning, I get out of there around 7 o'clock and go to start my car. It's not starting. Actually, I thought it started at first and I was just like, wow, that's really quiet. Didn't start. I'm like, fuck, my battery died. I'm like, how the hell did my battery die though? Because I didn't leave anything on. Everything's automatic in the car. Everything shuts off on its own. Anyways, so the car is dead. I didn't know what to do. It's early in the morning. I can't call someone I know to come help because it's early in the morning. None of them are going to be awake. And so I had to call a tow truck driver to come jump the car, which is crazy. They bring this little, it's like the shape of a briefcase and the size of a briefcase. Dude, he plugged it into my battery for 1 second and it immediately recharged completely. So the car started, whatever. I'm asking the guy, what do you think it could be? Obviously he's not looking at the car, or obviously he's not taking a deep dive into what it could be, but he's like, I don't think it's your battery because this and that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, cool. Backing it up though. Notice my car wouldn't start. So first thing that pops in my head is all right, pop the hood and go look at it. And the second I get around to look under my hood, I immediately started laughing at myself in my head because I don't know what the hell I'm looking at. I don't know what's in there. It's like as if I opened the hood and I thought, oh, there's a basketball in here. I'll just take that out and the car will start. I have no idea what I'm looking at, nor is any of my knowledge going to help start my car. But it's just in that split second, I just know that the obvious proper thing to do is pop the hood and look at what's going on. I have no idea what's going on. It was a complete waste of time. There was no use of popping my hood. But also, I had to at least stand there for a second. No one was around. Like I said, it was early in the morning. The sun hasn't even risen yet. No one's around. No one's looking at me. But I had to justify popping my hood. So I just stood there for a few seconds looking around. I'm like, oh, yep, that's the engine. That's in the right place. Yep, that's the battery. That's in the right place. For no reason. I'm not a mechanic. I know nothing about cars. There's nothing I'm going to do to fix the car. But just the shame of opening it and then immediately closing it, I had to at least, if anyone was watching, just pretend like I was doing it for a reason for a second. But I didn't know what the hell was going on, so I couldn't do anything. Close the hood, call the tow. He comes, recharges the battery really quick. Like I said, he said, I don't think it's this, I don't think it's that, whatever. So I just go about my life thinking, all right, I know I have to bring it into the dealership regardless. This proves it. And, maybe it's just a bad battery or something. A couple days later, driving home from the gym, so also very early in the morning, this car dies while I'm driving it. And again, I'm an idiot. I don't know anything about cars, but I know that's a bigger deal than it just not starting because the battery died while the car was sitting for some reason. My car dies in the middle of an intersection. And I'm like, fuck, what do I do now? It's a SUV, so it's I can't push and steer it at the same time. Plus, it's now rush hour traffic on Pico Boulevard, which is a busy ass street in the morning. I'm like, dude, what the fuck do I do? So I'm just all right, well, I'm going to put my hazards on here and wait. I had no idea what to do. So obviously it is what it is. I didn't think anything dangerous was going to happen, but it was a dangerous position to be in. So I'm Googling, can I call 911 to have them jump my car? And on Google, it said, if you're in a dangerous place or whatever, they will come help. I'm like, fuck it. I don't know what else to do. I don't want to have to pay another. It was $65 just to get my car jumped. the first time that it happened. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to call 911, which feels so dumb. And like, I don't want to waste their time either. Like, I'm not ignorant to the fact that this is obviously not an emergency. But so immediately when I talked to the operator, I'm like, hey, listen, I understand. I'm not trying to waste your time. I looked it up online, blah, blah, blah. Is there any way, because I'm in the middle of an intersection, it's rush hour traffic, is there any way you could just send someone to jump the car quick or help me move it at least? And the lady basically laughed at me. It was like, no, we don't do that. That's not going to happen. I'm like, fuck. All right, well. So she connected me to a tow truck driver, another one. Because the guy that I used the other day was really nice. I tried calling him, no answer. He probably saw my number. He's like, I don't want to go out there for $65 again. So they connect me to another tow company. That tow company sends someone. And upon arriving, this is now, I've been in the intersection for like 40 minutes. You know, I had my arm out the window, or out the door. I couldn't even unroll my window because the battery's shot. So I had to open the door and wedge my arm in between the door and my car and the inside of the car because I couldn't open my door all the way because of oncoming traffic. So I'm just like going like this, trying my best. I can't do it right now because I can't put my arm all the way up because of the headphones. There you go. I'm like trying to wave like this so everyone behind me realize, because also I'm in a lane that you would turn left in. Not like a left only lane, but like people are trying to turn left. Again, rush hour traffic. Everyone's in a rush. Everyone's trying to get to work, trying to get to where they have to go. And it's incredible the amount of people that, I don't know, I'm sure we're all guilty of it. Maybe they're just driving, it's early in the morning. They're just on their way to work, not really paying full attention. But it's like, dude, my hazards are on and an arm is waving out of the way. And still some people are like, what? I don't get it. So I had to like get out of my car 100 times and be like, my car. It's so funny thinking about it now. The amount of times I half whispered / mouthed the phrase, my car is dead. This is the exact phrase. My car is dead. You have to get over. At least 100. So I'm doing that. Finally, the tow gets there and he's like, I'm like, yeah, is there any way you could just jumpstart the car? This was literally 2 blocks away from my house. And he's like, sometimes people in like manual labor positions or mechanics or anyone that's in a tall truck just immediately feels like they have some sort of authority over you, or like they know everything and you know nothing. Now, while that might kind of be the case, I don't know anything about cars. There's just a certain air about those types of people, almost a certain arrogance. And so he was just like, he had that demeanor. He's like, well, I'm going to be honest with you, man. I'm not going to jumpstart your car because, I see that your hazards are on. That means it's not the battery. It's more of it's a bigger issue than that. And then if you drive a couple feet down the road and die again, I still got to charge you. So I don't really feel comfortable doing that. And I'm like, he's half trying to be cool, like trying to be like, listen, I'm giving it to you straight. This is what it is. But also like kind of trying to like big dog me. And I'm just like, I don't got time for this. I'm like, dude, listen, I feel you. I respect what you're saying. I understand. I'm sure you know more than me, of course. But with that said, I live 2 streets away. I promise you I'll be able to get the car home if you jumpstart it. He refuses to jumpstart it. I don't want to get it towed. So he just left. So then I'm still in the intersection. So I had to call the guy from 2 days previous who came to jump my car. He's like, yeah, I can be there at 8:30. It's like 7:40. So that's almost an hour more I have to wait in the intersection, and I'm just like, what the fuck, man? So I wait, and it's so funny. When you really are frozen in time and all you have to do is observe, you really get a different, like, you're looking at humanity through a completely different lens. Obviously, it's like a stressful situation for me, so I'm looking at it through this veil of, like I don't know, high in intensity or, like, not anger, but like frustration, And so I'm watching people pull up behind me, and I can't tell you the amount of people that like beeped at me or like threw their hands up as if I'm inconveniencing their day because my car broke down. Like, dude, you have your car works. You should be like, oh, I'm glad I'm not that guy. The amount of people though that were just like, ugh, like, dude, you saw for at least a 50 to 100 feet that I have my hazards on, and I'm waving my arm out the window. So now it's your fault that you didn't get over earlier. Anyways, but I also understand their angle of like, oh shit, here's a car in the road. I get it, but it's just like, I'm sorry, my way bigger problem is causing a slight inconvenience for you. That kind of annoyed me, but it's just when, 9 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 people were like, oh, I understand, got over. 2 out of 10 people were like, fuck you. And it's like, really, man? Finally, I was parked in front of a church this whole time. Not parked, broken down at the intersection right in front of a church. And it was like, it might be like a Catholic school or something. So I kept like watching lines of children go in and out of the church, whatever. But there was this older gentleman standing there kind of observing the whole situation for a while. Finally, he runs out into the road and puts a cone behind my car, and I'm like, oh, thank you so much, that helps for sure. Now you can't ignore this cone a few feet away from my car. Obviously you see that you have to get over. And then a few minutes after that, guy pulls up alongside of me, and he's like, yo, do you want to like push your car? And I'm like, yes, but the whole time I'm sitting there, obviously I've had plenty of time to contemplate, like, all right, should I just try to get out and push my car? I guess, I could have waved someone down like, hey, please help me. I don't know if it was just feeling uncomfortable or feeling like that's not like the proper thing. I don't know. It's like, all right, this is my problem, no one else's. I'm not going to, but also in some ways I was causing a bigger issue by not just waving someone down or asking someone walking by on the street to help me push it quick. But I just feel like that's a big ask. I don't know. It's probably just me in my own head. So, but the guy's like, do you want to push your car? And I'm like, yeah, but it's rush hour traffic. It's also like a staggered intersection. It's not a normal four-way intersection. The street that was perpendicular to the street that I'm on was like this. You know what I mean? Like both lanes were a little distance from each other. So it's like a weird, like twisty, turny intersection where I can't just quickly push my car to the side of the road. It's obviously going to take a few moments. So couldn't do it alone. But he was like, nah, I got you. And I get out of the car like, I'm going to push. I don't care. You're going to steal my car. And what are you going to steal it? It doesn't work. So I got out of the car to push. He's like, nah, I got you. I'll push it. You just steer. So he helps me get to the side of the road. I'm like, dude, thank you so much. I don't have anything. But like, I wish I could have given him a couple dollars or something. I had nothing. So just super grateful for him. And it was a funny dichotomy between the amount of people I saw pull up behind me, frustrated, seemingly mad at my problem for causing the slightest inconvenience to their day. And then there was a guy that was just like, I got you, bro. I feel you. You know what I mean? He actually gave me a business card afterwards of like, he owns a tow truck service. So, I'm sure it was a little bit of like good marketing for him, but also he still didn't have to. He could have been like, fuck that. I'm on my way to work, whatever. So it was really helpful that he did that. Very grateful. And it's those little moments where it's like half of me is starting to hate all of society because I'm sitting in my car watching people get mad at me as if I purposely broke down in the middle of the intersection. Also, mind you, I live in Los Angeles where homeless people just walk in the streets and there are RVs parked illegally taking up half the road that don't move for months at a time, and everyone just drives right past them. But a normal person who's on their way home to then go to work, who their car breaks down, because it happens, can't deal with that for 2 seconds. So that frustrated me. But again, that guy restored my faith in humanity in that moment, because it's like, thanks, man. Thanks a lot. And it made me reflect a bit, because how many times have you seen someone pulled over on the side of the road, car broken down, and you kind of just think like, oh, well, I'm sure they're figuring it out, or like someone will help them, or someone has helped them, and they're just whatever. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you have to be the one to take the initiative to help. And that guy did that for me. And I hope that, I don't hope that I see anything bad, but like, I hope that in the near future, I'm able to pay that forward, because I think there have been many times where I've definitely been like, well, I got to get to where I'm going. It's more important than pulling over to stop for 5 minutes to help somebody. It's not more important. So I really appreciate that guy. Actually, I wish I had his business card with me. I'd shout out his business for the 10 people that watch this. So I'm just grateful that guy helped me. Who knows? I could still be in that intersection. Although it's not like I'm a complete piece of garbage. Sorry. I know I got to start talking better about myself. I'm saying I'm not a complete piece of garbage. There was a time where mildly recently, same thing, coming home from the gym. A lot happens in the hours of 6 to 7 in the morning in my neck of the woods. I saw a really bad accident. It must have happened 2 seconds before I got there. Busy, one busy street, 2 or 3 lanes on each, or 2 or 3 lanes in each lane, I guess. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? 2 or 3 lanes in each direction, and then like side streets on the side. So when you try to pull off the side street, those people are whipping sometimes. They're going fucking fast. So it can definitely be like a dangerous turn to make when if that person doesn't see you. So it was a situation like that. And, excuse me. And, yeah, it must have happened 2 seconds before. One of the cars was like smashed into like a pole and all the way off on the curb. And I saw the guy like stumble out of the car holding his head. I'm like, oh my God. And then the other car was also totaled in the middle of the road. And I see the guy get out of the front seat. And then I see him run over to the back seat of his car and open the door. And there's a little baby, like not baby, but like, a 3-year-old in the back. I'm like, oh no, this poor kid, he's crying, And I don't think he was injured. Obviously, I'm not a doctor or a paramedic, but like from what I could see, he didn't seem injured. But I immediately pulled the car over, ran over, and I'm like, "Is he okay? Like, does he need help?" And the guy just turned and looked at me. He's like, "Why would you turn like that?" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Why would you do that, man? You saw me coming." And I'm like, "Oh, you think I'm the one that hit you?" And I'm like, "No, man. Like, I wasn't involved at all. I just pulled over. I'm trying to help you." And so I was like, I'm gonna call 911 for him, but then I saw he must have lived close, because then his like father-in-law and wife came speeding up, and then obviously they got the baby out of the car and stuff like that. I guess there's not a great ending to that story. That was kind of silly. I'm like, I'm not a bad person. Here's the time I was kind of a good person for pulling over for 2 seconds. No, but I guess what I'm saying is, when the opportunity presents itself, you should try to take the initiative to be a good person, whether it's small or big. I just think that like I've definitely had that angel and devil on the shoulder type situation many times in life, where it's like you could do the harder thing, which is the right thing, or you could just pretend you never saw this and drive away. And I've done both. And I think we've all done both. And I suppose it's only natural to sometimes be like, well, I got to worry about me right now in this moment. And sometimes maybe that's true. But an overwhelming majority of the time, you could be like, I know it sounds so silly because it's not that big of a deal. I was broken down in the middle of an intersection, but in general, I was safe and it wasn't that big of a deal. But I did feel kind of helpless. Like, oh my God. And like, not kind of awkward. You know what I mean? Like, all these people hate me right now. And, I'm in the way. It's obviously annoying. You know what I mean? Having 10 cars behind you every time, like, and then like slowly you see the blinkers come on because they realize, oh, there's something obstructing traffic up there. So I felt like I was definitely anxious as heck. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, obviously I'm an anxious person, a little wild in my head sometimes. And just that like 3-minute interaction with that guy helping push my car, he's out of breath by the time he gets to the driver's seat to like be like dap me up and stuff. Like, he did not have to do that. And he was almost like this guardian angel savior in that moment to me. And we all have the opportunity to be that for someone more than we even realize. Helping an old woman with her groceries, or like little things like this. It's like, can you really not spare the 3 minutes, the few seconds to kind of like put the initiative forward to be a good person, to be a better person, to like add brightness to the world? You definitely can. And sometimes we just get so caught up on whatever the hell we're dealing with that it's like, well, they'll figure it out. And yeah, 99% of the time they will figure it out. But why not? What again, this goes back to last week. It's like, what makes you think that you don't need to be the one to do it? Someone else will pick up where you like, you know what I mean? Like, pass the buck to someone else. And again, we all do it. You're not a bad person if you've seen something happen in front of you and you keep going. Maybe you are in a rush. Maybe it's a very serious situation where like, I literally can't stop. And even though this would be technically more important, I do care about my life and my goals and my job or whatever. You're on your way to work. You're on your way to this, that. I understand that part of your brain taking over in those moments. But generally speaking, I think we could probably all do a little more to help each other out a bit. And I'm really grateful for that guy that helped me out. Now, still got to figure out what's wrong with my car. That's another thing. It's like, so for a long time, I didn't have to worry about things with my car because I had someone on the ready to do that stuff for me. Or like that knew I could at least consult and be like, what the hell should I do? Now that's not an option for me currently. So it's funny to like obviously like call my mom. It's so funny. I'm turning 29 in 2 weeks. Who do I call first? Mama. Like, Mom, what do I do? You know, this is another thing too. It's like my car broke down. Don't know what to do. I know nothing about cars. And my dad's been gone for over 10 years now. And yet there's still a little piece of me that in those moments is like, I got to call my dad. He'll know what to do. He'll give me advice. He's a man. He's more of a man than I am. You know, I still get those feelings and I still have to like remind myself almost that's not an option. And it's just one of those parts of grief that in the early stages after you lose someone very important to you, I don't know, like it's in the early stages, it seems obvious that that would be a thought. Like it's so fresh and so new that you've lost somebody that of course you're going to think like, oh, I want to tell them this thing, or I want to ask their advice on this. But you would, I don't know, maybe not. But to me, it seems like after a decade and more, that thought would kind of escape your mind because it's like you're used to it. At least more. You're at least more used to it at this point that person is no longer available on the phone. But still in that moment, that was one of my first thoughts was like, shit, I got to call my dad because he'll know what to do. And that wasn't an option, obviously. So I called Mama. She's the best. She knows what to do always, it seems like. And she gave me her 2 cents on what she thought I should do in that moment. But like, it's just one of those little itty bitty reminders that's like, love you, dude. Love you so much. Wish you were here because I really could use your help. And that happened with a few things this week where, just life things where it's like, damn, I really, really wish more than anything I had this person to consult on specifically being a man. Like when you still have your father, depending on your relationship with them, obviously, if you have a decent relationship with your father though, and you're in your 20s, entering your 30s, you have the option to pick up the phone and be like, hey, what was this like for you? And if you're lucky enough to have a relationship with your father, and it might not, dad's advice is not always perfect, but it's at least coming from a perspective of, I know what it's like to be a man. I know what it's like to have these certain expectations on us as men, yada, 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 that I can at least lend you my sage advice from an older point of view where I've made my fair share of mistakes. I've learned from them, whatever. And it's just moments like that kind of twist the knife a little, where it's like, shit, I really wish I could call. Again, the thing with the car is one thing, but also just life stuff. Not having that man in my life to be able to call and be like, hey, how would you deal with this as a man that I respect and as a good man, all around a good dude? What would you do in this situation? Am I looking at this wrong? Basically like give it to me straight. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't you don't have to like always be on my side in terms of like, you're right, the world is wrong. I want to know what's good. And it sucks that I don't have that man to call anymore. And being that I lost him when I was 15, there are literally over 10 years of problems now that I really wish that I had that person to hit dial and get on the phone with. And I still talk to him anyway. It's almost like it reminds me of like with this whole AI situation with ChatGPT and all these things coming out, where you can type in a celebrity's like, write me a story about this modern subject in this famous author's prose in his voice, whatever. And it's incredible what gets turned out. But I almost feel like I do that with my dad. Having lost him over 10 years ago, I still try to talk to him because I can't just call him on the phone. I still try to talk to him and kind of almost ask him, channel him, and be like, how would you handle this situation? And it's like this, there's like an AI in my brain that has stored all the conversations we had from the ages of 0 to 15, and all the wisdom that he did impart on me, and trying to like, I don't know, spit out some data points that would work for a modern issue that I'm going through that he actually has no idea about. And I don't know, it works sometimes, it's helpful sometimes. But I just thought, like, that's kind of like an AI system in your head of being like, I wonder what this person would say about this, and not being able to actually ask them, but it's some alternate version of, reality of what they might say in that situation. And sometimes it can be really helpful when you're going through loss and when you're going through grief. But I'm waiting for the day, I'm sure it's not far away, where you can somehow program it to speak to you like a lost loved one. I'm pretty sure there's like a Black Mirror episode about that. But it's crazy when you see this technology come that we've been talking about for years, and it's like, oh shit, this shit is real, and it works pretty fucking good. But yeah, I just had that thought, like, damn, when I try to talk to my dad, it's kind of like some sort of AI chat GPT in my head. Or if maybe it's a more spiritual thing where it's like, I'm so like influenced, I could say, by like movies and music and art. Not necessarily in a negative way, but in the sense of like, sometimes I view my life as if it really is a movie. Again, not in a way of like I'm oblivious or that I'm like hiding from reality, but in the sense of like, I guess it's easier for me to make like neural connections if I can connect it to something like that. So it's like Mufasa speaking to Simba from the stars. When I'm talking to my dad, is it me manufacturing what he might say in my head, or is it possible that I can tap into something else and it really is like some sort of energy source that I'm getting from the universe and from my dad, where he can actually communicate with me? I don't know the answer. And if it's mostly a positive thing, I suppose that the answer doesn't matter. But it is interesting to think about, because I'm saying like it's almost like a computer program in my head, but maybe it's not that at all. Maybe it's more of a spiritual, an energy type thing. Not to sound too much like a hippie, but like, I believe in that stuff, so maybe it is that. I know one thing I do that's almost like, I don't know, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be brought back to religion, but I almost feel like it's sacrilegious. Like if you watch sports, it seems like every athlete after a big victory or even a loss, but specifically when they're interviewing the champion or the winner or whatever, so many of them are Christians, and they'll say like, I just first want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Through him all things are possible. Like there's some version of that always. And then there are people who I know who are at least mildly religious who hate that, who are like, God has nothing to do with sports, or like, I guess that's a philosophical question of, I kind of understand where the athlete's coming from, of like, if you're a devout Christian, you have this belief system, and you believe in God, and through him all things are possible, so you're giving thanks. Like that seems like a very normal Christian thing to do. But I guess the other perspective on it, the other outlook on it is like, it almost seems like, he's got bigger issues. He's got bigger fish to fry. It's kind of a Bible pun, fish. He's got bigger things to deal with than like helping you win the World Series, which I can understand. But what I'm saying is, it's almost kind of sacrilegious in my head the way I do it, because I'll be watching the Yankees, which opening day is next week. Woo! And that was me and my dad's biggest connection. I mean, obviously, you see, I'm ridiculous with this stuff, but that was me and my dad's biggest connection. And so in a big moment, in a big game, I literally will like pray to my dad and be like, come on, Dad. Like some angels in the outfield shit. I really will be like, Dad, please, we need this hit. Hold his. And also, my dad was a good baseball player too, like an excellent baseball player. So it's like as if I'm like, hey, spirit of my father, please grab the bat for this player and get a base hit to like drive in a run, or like guide the pitch and make it do some crazy stuff at the end so our pitcher strikes the guy out. And like that, it's funny, it's silly, but also like, even if that stuff is real, even if I really can speak to my father still in some ways, I feel like there's probably a bunch of other people. It's like, it really is like angels in the outfield. Like maybe I'm praying to my dad, or I'm like trying to talk to my dad, because my dad is not God. I don't want to get into a spiritual discussion. Whatever, that doesn't matter. I'm speaking to my dad in the other realm and being like, hey, strike this guy out. But also, there could be some Red Sox fan who's talking to his grandpa, who was a big Red Sox fan, or whatever, similar situation, and he's like, come on, like, he's got to get a hit here. So is it like, from that point of view, it's not like my dad can do anything. He's playing against other angels, or he's playing against other spirits. I don't know. That's silly stuff, but yeah, man, my car. This all started because I was trying to shout out my mom. Still, I did call Mama. She helped me with the process of what she thinks I should do. But it's tough because my car right now starts. Okay. Technically speaking, I could drive it down the road. And there was no appointments at the dealership until Monday. This happened Friday. So I knew that if I got it towed on Friday through like the Chevy OnStar like free service, but you got to wait there for like an hour and a half for them to come tow your car, that they would, the car would have to sit there over the weekend. Now it doesn't matter if I haven't been using my car all weekend because I'm nervous that it's going to break down while driving it again. So I guess I could have just done it and had it sit there. But my thought was, my appointment's not till Monday morning anyway. I should just get it towed on Monday morning. But now my thought is like, I can't schedule the tow. At least maybe I'll look it up a little later. I know this is just silly stuff, but I don't know. I can't schedule the tow, but my car does start, and the dealership's not that far from my house. And I'm like, should I just leave super early in case something does happen, and then I can get the roadside assistance tow from wherever it breaks down this time? Or should I just not even risk it and just get the car towed from my house, even though it does start and can drive at least a little? I don't know. And this episode will be out too soon for anyone listening to give me their thoughts on it. But so I guess just wish me the best of luck. I'll see what I decide to do. Again, not a big deal. I was almost a little upset with myself in how I handled the situation the first time, which was way less of a big. Again, car broke down in the parking lot, or car would not broke down. The car wouldn't start in the parking lot because the battery's dead. I'm safe and sound, dude. It's not a big deal. But I let it kind of spiral out of control in my head, which usually I think I'm really good at being like, this literally doesn't matter. I'm not going to die. It's okay. I'll figure it out. I'm not alone in this somehow, some way. Like, it's okay. It's all good. But in that moment, given other things going on in my day and in my life, also it was pouring rain. So that, when I popped the hood to pretend I knew what I was looking at, pouring rain. So it's just like, not a big deal. It's, in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal at all. In a few weeks, I'll never think about this again. And usually I'm very good at just like quieting down my thoughts and being like, it's all good. It's fine. Gonna get your car jumped, gonna get it home, gonna get to work, gonna get what you gotta get done. It's all good. Not a big deal. But for some reason in that moment, because financially I'm struggling a little right now, and just all this, I'm like, I can't afford this. What am I going to do? I got to drive my girlfriend to work. She's going to be late. She just started a new job. What am I going to... All these thoughts, all through my head, rapid fire. And it's like, I didn't do what I tell other people to do. I didn't do what I know works in that moment. I didn't take the deep breaths and snap myself back to the present and realize like, all right, this is not the end of the world, bud. You're okay. And so I'm not ashamed of myself in the sense of like, I got to have grace with myself. We all have weaker moments and stronger moments. But looking back on it and just being honest with myself and reflecting, that was not my best moment of being like stoic and real and like dealing with the problem and putting it like a lot, like putting it in the slot it belongs, which is the slot that says not a big deal at all. Wasn't a big deal. Now, on the flip side, when it was actually a big deal and I was broken down in the middle of an intersection, that's obviously a little bit more of a big deal. I did handle it like okay. I was stressed and annoyed, but it was like, I literally remember having a thought of like, what am I going to do, dude? It is what it is. These people, I don't mean this badly because this is a mental health podcast, but the way I actually speak to my friends and to my family is my thought was like, fuck them. What am I going to do? And I don't mean fuck them like, I'm more important. I mean like, I can't worry about what these people's reaction is to my mishap, my current situation that is potentially inconveniencing them. I can't worry about it too much. So fuck them. And again, don't take that as a bit of advice of like, fuck other people. It doesn't matter. But a little bit of fuck them can go a long way in life. I feel like, again, not in the sense of at someone else's expense or disrespecting them, but in the sense of you can only control what you can control. You can only, dictate terms only so much. And if someone else has a problem with you doing whatever, as long as that you're not causing harm to them or doing something straight up against them or personally attacking them, if they want to feel whatever way they want to feel and they want to react whatever way they want to react, fuck them. I'm not one of those people that's like, it doesn't matter what anyone thinks about me. It absolutely does matter. You want to be a good person. You want people to think highly of you, not for your ego, but because you want to be an actual person. You want to actually be a good person who deserves that, praise from other people. It's like, oh, he's a good guy. But generally speaking, I kind of think that a little bit of fuck 'em is good advice. You can only control other people so much. You can't control what other people think and do based on what you think and do. So maybe, that's more of a like, Goodfellas type of term, like fuck 'em. Maybe that's not the correct vernacular. Maybe that sounds a bit disrespectful, but you do have to just kind of let it go when it comes to other people sometimes. Like you're not going to be able to make them like you. Excuse me, that was all right. I'm going to pretend that didn't happen, and hopefully you didn't hear it. You're not going to be able to make other people feel a certain way about you. You can only put your best foot forward. That's what I mean when I say you should care about what other people think. You shouldn't be like, I don't care at all. I'm going to do me. I'm going to keep it like, yo, cool, bro. That's sick. That's why you're going to end up alone and miserable. You have to care what other people think a little bit. You have to be a decent human being and nurture relationships, even in a relationship in the sense of someone you interact with one time in your life. That's still a relationship. You have to care a little, but you can't care too much. And that's where fuck 'em comes in. Cause fuck 'em. That's why. There's only so much you can do. You got to just let it go at a certain point, and that's where the term fuck 'em comes from. So I don't mean it in a bad way that in traffic I was like, fuck 'em, fuck you. I wasn't like, like a road rage situation, but a little bit of like, what am I going to do, dude? You got to just kind of brush it off sometimes. And sometimes, for me, the easiest way to do that is to say, fuck 'em. So that's what I did. Wow, usually the episode gets off to a slow start, and then I'm like, what should I talk? Then I ease into it, and then I get going. This time, I used all my topics right up front. Yeah, it's just, again, I wish I did a better job of compartmentalizing this issue in the grand scheme of my life, but I have to have grace with myself and realize, like, it was a stressful situation. It's annoying, it's the morning, I'm barely awake. I just worked out, and I'm hungry, and haven't had coffee. Like, my brain is kind of all over the place at that time, so of course it's going to make it a little bit more amped up than it needed to be. But then the second time around, a couple days later, I guess I used my lessons from the first one and was like, all right, what are you going to do? It's all right. It's all good. You'll figure it out. And then you improvise, man. You have to have the ability to improvise. And being like a jazz musician and being that that's always been my favorite form of music, at least creating music, like when I would play in groups and stuff, is I always wanted a solo. Not because like I want all eyes on me, but because like I wanted to improvise. Like that's the most fun part, is just creating it on the spot, feeling the vibe, feeling the song. And I feel like in a lot of ways that has kind of carried over into my way of life, into like my philosophy on living. You always have to try to have your ducks in a row the best you can. And you want to set up your chess pieces and have a plan, and look to the future at least enough to be like, okay, this is why I'm doing the things I'm doing, because this is what I'm working towards, whatever. But you also have to have the ability to improvise. You have to have the ability to improvise, because it's almost never going to go exactly according to your plan, because all you can do is control your actions toward that plan. The universe has other ideas. So if you don't have the ability to improvise, you're stuck in a plan that no longer works. And it's just really important to be open to improvisation, to be open to spontaneity. And it also ends up being kind of one of the sweet spots of life. I feel like every good memory with my friend group, well, not every good memory, I have a million, thank God, lucky to have that. But like so many of my favorite memories, or so many of the times where after we were like, wow, that was amazing. That was so much fun. That was crazy. That was like a lifetime story. So many of them are spur of the moment things. So like, yes, as men specifically listening to this, if you have a partner or whatever, you should plan date nights. You should plan to do things for your significant other, or you should plan to do things with your friends. Like plans are important, especially as you get older. People have a million things going on. It's something I wish I was a little more spontaneous. I have certain friends that they're the type to just call you randomly and be like, hey, what are you doing in an hour? My brain kind of like resists that for some reason, because I feel it's probably because it's more comfortable to fall into a schedule or to make plans, and to kind of like, especially when you're an anxious person or a depressed person, to be able to kind of like ease into it rather than jump right in the pool. And also we are all busy and we have stuff going on. So that's usually my excuse or my reasoning in my head. But sometimes I wish that I would pick up the phone from a friend and be like, yes, absolutely, whatever. What do you want to do in an hour? Yeah, sure, I'll get up and go. Because it ends up being some of the best memories. But there is just something about that, like, oh, this plan fell through and this plan fell through and this happened, but like, let's go do this. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. We didn't have that in our head at all until this moment that you just said that. And then it ends up being fun. You kind of go on this mental adventure out in the world of like, oh, what's next? We don't even know. We have no plan. That's fun. And even if that's not like your favorite way of going about things, like I said, I understand that, because typically for me, I'd rather at least know I'm going to be doing something, not what it is necessarily, but that I'm going to be leaving my home and doing something, but at least being open to it sometimes, and recognizing that there's a place for improvisation and spontaneity in your life. Always. There is some sort of need for it always. And it also, like I said, ends up being one of the more beautiful parts of life. It's the most beautiful part of a jazz song. A jazz record is, yeah, Miles Davis wrote that melody, but that solo he played will be different. There might be certain lines, certain licks, certain patterns that he tries to manipulate in a similar way each time, but you're never going to hear the same solo twice from Miles Davis. If you were to see him play live, if you were graced with his presence to see him play live, like if you saw 3 shows and he played Kind of Blue 3 times, he's not going to play the exact same improvised solo. You know what I mean? So it's just like the most in the moment we can be is through improvisation. And to me, as an anxious, depressed, often feeling out of my head, depersonalized, desensitized, the thing that snaps you back to feeling kind of comfortable is living in the moment as best as possible. That's why I always talk about the deep breathing exercises and things, because it just kind of snaps your brain back into right now. But there's no more right now feeling than improvisation, because it's, what do you feel right now? Let it out into the world right now. So you got to be open to it. You don't have to do anything, actually. You don't have to do anything. But I recommend that you be open to spontaneity, that you be open to improvisation. Because it's beautiful. You just got up right now and like, the spur of the moment, what do you want to do right now? Like, I could see myself doing that right now. Go do it. It's fun. As long as you're not hurting anybody or yourself, do it. Again, there's time and place. 90% of the time, making plans probably makes more sense, especially as you get older. It's not like you're just sitting around doing nothing and your friend calls you and you're like, yeah, I have no plans for the next 8 hours, actually, so that's fine. Most of us, fall into a routine, and as we grow up, which I think that's something that I've resisted a bit. Or I used to resist. Now I feel like it's so obvious in my head that routine is number one for me. I absolutely have to have routine, or I do have the ability, I know it's in me, to sit down and do absolutely nothing for long periods of time. When you're in a relationship, that's almost impossible, because like that person is like, what are you doing? I've never even actually, I haven't even ever shown that side of me to my girlfriend. But like, single me had the ability to sit and do absolutely nothing for a long time. So I know that routine is where I thrive for certain, 100%. But I think I resisted it for so long because I like the idea of being like a spontaneous, I have friends that I kind of envy because they have no problem with that. And it's not that they're not busy. It's not that they don't have stuff going on, but they are so much more open to the moment taking over. And I have trouble with that sometimes. So I think for a while I resisted a schedule resisted regimen, resisted discipline, because I felt like it takes away from the possibility of like that, which is silly, because you can do both. You can be a disciplined, regimented person and then still leave room for like anything. Improvisation, spontaneity. I like the word spontaneity, and I think that's why I keep saying it. To be spontaneous, spontaneity. Spontaneous is a good word, but spontaneity, and it's like spelled kind of funky. I like that word. I don't know. That's probably going to be the title of the episode. Yeah, man. I mean, sometimes life just forces you to be spontaneous. So if you're not open to it, it's going to make those moments way more difficult. And being a regimented, scheduled person is fine, but there are times if you're too regimented, too scheduled, you will freak out in the moments where you have to think on your toes, and that's not good either. So it's like you have to have a balance of like, hey, I know this schedule, this routine works best for me. It's kind of like, everything's about optimization nowadays. It optimizes my life, my work-life balance, my schedule, my sleep schedule, all these things. But like, when a wrench gets thrown in there, do you have the ability to completely do a 180 and be like, oh, I have to go about this a completely different way than what I had planned? And if you don't have that ability, I think it can really lead to like some negative mental health side effects as well, of just over stress and like anxiety, panic attacks over things that don't necessarily call for them. And I've tried to accept the fact that I can't say what should or shouldn't cause someone an anxiety attack. But I suppose what I mean by when I say like it's not worthy of that is that you do have it within you to adjust and to pivot and to make the most out of this newfound situation that does not look the way you thought it would. It doesn't. You don't have to. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be anxious about it. You don't have to be panicked about it. You have the ability within you to improvise, to let it go, to let go of your expectations and realize, okay, well, that wasn't meant to be how I thought it was meant to be. Let's move forward. So part of me is like, damn, I dropped the ball on that on the first time that my car died, because I was like, oh no, what do I do? And then second time I was like, what am I going to do? So, but just generally speaking, and that also goes to like helping people. It's like, I didn't have it in my head today that I was going to have to pull over and, help push this person's car to the side of the road. I can't do that. I have to go to Target. I have to be on time. I have this schedule. It's like, okay, yeah, but also if you allowed yourself to be a little spontaneous, improvise a bit, you might be able to see yourself pulling over to the side of the road and be like, you know what? I absolutely have a few minutes to help this other human being who also has their own issues, who also is going crazy, and who also has to live in this very confusing, tumultuous state of affairs that we live in nowadays. Yeah, I guess that has a bit of spontaneity and improvisation involved also. Yeah, I mean, but that routine really does help. So it's like, as I say all the time, it's always a devil's advocate thing, but I don't think it's a negative. I think it's like pretty obvious that nothing in life is black and white. It's all gray. Nothing is 100%, 0%. It's always ebbs and flows and balance. So I'm saying all this about being spontaneous, having the ability to improvise, and it is important. It has its place and time, but also this week was a perfect example, other than the car stuff and going through that, which stunk, of that disciplined schedule for me is definitely the best way to help myself in my mental health. Because again, for the billionth time, when I'm not working on stuff, when I don't feel productive, I hold it against myself. And of course, I need to get better at having grace with myself and realizing there are times where you just, again, the spontaneous side of things, but also, generally speaking, the 95% of my life and schedule, or the 90%, whatever percentage you want to put towards it, that schedule helps me. Knowing that I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get to the gym by this time, get home by this time, go to work, get home by get back from work by this time, work until this time in the studio, and it helps tremendously. And now I think I need to take it one step further and blot out my days of the week of what I'm actually going to be working on, because that's the other thing. Getting in the studio is fine. You have to at least I have to be in this room to make something happen. But there are also, when you have, see, this is the catch-22. This is the devil's advocate thing, dude. When you're only improvising and there's no structure to it, it just sounds like noise, right? So I have to somehow regiment myself of all right, on these days of the week, this is what I'm going to work on. Instead of just coming in here, opening another Logic session and just hoping something happens, and then inevitably getting frustrated because I don't feel like I have a real strong direction on this song or that or whatever it might be. And I feel like I'm addicted to starting new songs because it's fun to see the birth of an idea and I can hear it in my head. And then there are times where I can't translate it to what the actual song could sound like. But I know that all right, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to work on new music. Tuesday, Thursday, I'm going to shoot some fakakta, TikTok video or whatever. I'll probably see better results, and it'll also help my productivity. So that's something that going forward this week, as much as I said that this week, that the title of this episode might be spontaneity. I do have to continue to follow that schedule and kind of fine tune it and optimize it, while also allowing space for, actually on Wednesday night, there's this open mic event that I want to go to, check out, see if it's something that I'd be interested in performing, things like that, being open to that. And also, am in a relationship, do have a whole other set of expectations and obligations that I have to live up to while also doing this. So it's difficult. Time management has always been something that's hard for me. I've gotten better at it over the years, but I know in general that working on some sort of schedule helps me. And it's funny because you get into I feel like comedians probably have the same issue. You get into this industry partially because you think I don't want to have a real job. And then once you get into the thick of it, you realize, it's more work than I could have ever imagined because there's no clock in sheet. You know what I'm saying? There's no I got to be doing it from this time to this time. It's all on you, big dog. It's all on you to put the hours in and put the effort in, put the work in. And also, if you don't, the business closes. You are the business. If you don't put the time and effort in, Ain't nothing going to happen from it. So it's more work than ever, but it's funny because definitely when I first started out, my thought was, this is years ago, so I was naive and young. Being 17, 18, 19, 20 years old, thinking like, I know this is what I'm supposed to do in life. A lot of the motivation came from like, I want to do what I want when I want. It's like, yeah, of course, if you become, if you get far enough in your career, there's definitely a certain aspect of freedom of like, you get to choose what and when and what, but also the amount of work that goes into it is incredible. So, they don't show you that side as much, but like I used to watch Wiz Khalifa day to day. Like he used to do these like behind the scenes, like vlogging, tour life type videos. And that was like I know it sounds silly, but again, this is when I was younger. That was like one of my biggest inspirations of like, oh, he's just with the homies, like making money off rapping, like smoking weed all day. Like, wow, that would be so cool. I don't know. I just said, wow, like Owen Wilson kind of, wow. That would be incredible. And that was like literally part of my motivation. Like me and the homies literally used to sit in my basement and watch those videos and be like, dude, one day this is going to be us. And that drove us for a long time, wanting that to be us. And having gone on tour twice, like that's what it kind of was like. Now, granted, we weren't going on our own tour, playing for our own fans or anything like that. But like the aspect of like, we're just out here, young kids, like not a care in the world. Our only responsibility is to get to the venue on time and get to the next city. That was the best, man. We had that for a second, you know what I mean? But also, there's a lot of stress and a lot of work and a lot of dark moments and a lot of bright moments that you just, that are not, it's not all just fun and games when you pick a career path like this. So that's why I've realized that resisting a schedule is no good. Just getting in here when I feel a spark of creativity is not good. Leaving myself open for that, leaving my brain open to the possibility of an idea entering my head and going into the other room and trying to make something of it, that's good. But I do realize now that like having a set schedule of this is the time that I'm going to try to, I always thought that it's like a song comes to me when a song comes to me. And that is partially true. But I always felt like, all right, having scheduled studio sessions is like, all right, at this time, you're going to write a song. Well, that's not really how it works. That's not, you don't always feel inspired. You don't always channel whatever creativity is. You can't always just channel it in the moment that you happen to be in the studio. But with that said, like having a schedule of like, I know that I'm going to be there from this time to this time, or at least this many nights a week, does help the mental health aspect of it. It helps the productivity aspect of it. And then there are times where it's like I didn't necessarily think I was going to come in the studio or whatever. Technology is an incredible thing for like songwriters and musicians. You hear a melody in your head, you hear lyrics in your head, you write them down quick or record a voice memo. Like that stuff is all super, super helpful. But having a schedule is absolutely key in my opinion. And I never used to think so. I always thought like, I don't know, that it was whack or like that's not why I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this because it's fun. It's like, yeah, it's fun, but it's still work. Everything you do ends up being like the whole like, if you do something you'll love, you'll never work a day in your life. That is definitely true, but it's also still work. Everything becomes work. There's stress involved in everything. We strive for greatness. We put expectations on ourselves. Yes, you love the thing. You love the action. You love creation. You love baking. But, when you got to pay the bills, it becomes work, So, again, it's about balance. Yes, it's work. Yes, it's important that you do it in a professional manner. Yes, it's important that you schedule yourself and stay disciplined. But it's also important to let yourself have fun, to let yourself experience things in life, to let yourself be spontaneous and improvise. And also, it's improvisation and spontaneity are a muscle that we have to kind of grow and nurture. Because when we become too regimented, the second things get out of whack, it's like, oh no, what do I do? And that can't be a thing either. Have to be kind of just ride the fucking pocket in the middle. I think that's where you'll have your best chance at success and happiness, specifically happiness. riding that middle ground. Yeah, I can do whatever I want right now, but also I'm going to try to stick to my schedule as best as I can. Simple as that, dude. We figured it out. It only took us an hour and however many seconds. So I'm going to hope that I can get my car fixed in short order. Hopefully I won't have to pay because it's still under warranty and it's a lease and all that stuff. About one of the only good things about having a lease. And we'll just take it from there. Like I said, the new single is done. I have to do a shoot or something for the cover. No idea what the cover is going to be yet. So I guess I'm going to try to work that into my schedule this week. And hopefully it'll come out in a couple weeks. And then hopefully I can just keep pumping them out and continue to try to find the right show to start performing. And that's something that I can't be too... Like, I got to just kind of accept whatever I can at this moment. Not like, I don't know. Doesn't matter. I got to stop being so picky. Like, if I want to start, I got to just start performing. So hopefully that soon, but definitely the song, single, new record. I got to start calling it records because all the cool musicians call them records. Like, I was working on this record. Like, I always say song. It's a song, okay? No one's pressing it into vinyl anymore unless you're cool. Actually, a lot of artists are doing that now. It's pretty sweet. Definitely gonna want to do that next, like, EP or something, or the first album or something. But single coming soon. Stick to your schedule, but be spontaneous at the same time. Do the right thing. Try to help someone this week, and always try to help yourself. Thank you again so much for listening. I gotta remember I got this. You gotta remember you got this, and if not, we got this. We got each other's back. Thanks for listening. Peace out. Hope your car doesn't break down.